New tonight, a defiant response from Israel's prime minister over potential charges against him from the International Criminal Court for Israel's war in Gaza. Here's Benjamin Netanyahu with CNN's Jake Tapper.
They're beyond outrageous. This is a rogue prosecutor that has put false charges and created false symmetries that are both dangerous and false. And the first false symmetry is he equates the democratically elected leaders of Israel with the terrorist tyrants of Hamas. That's like saying that, well, I'm issuing, arrest warrants for FDR and Churchill, but also for Hitler. Or I'm issuing arrest warrants for George Bush, George W. Bush, but also for bin Laden. That's absurd.
Here to discuss this with me is a Washington Post foreign policy columnist, Josh Rogin. Josh, good to see you. So Netanyahu there in that interview, he called it anti-Semitic and a slander to say that Israel isn't going out of its way to minimize civilian casualties in this war. Do you think that that is supported by the facts?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, it's very clear that Prime Minister Netanyahu is doubling down on his determination to defend his government's treatment of the civilians in Gaza. And in a way, he's trying to take advantage of the fact that the ICC is considering leveling these charges to play the victim and to pretend that he's under attack. And I think that makes sense for him politically, although it doesn't, to your question, answer the real questions and the real disparities between what he said in that interview with Jake Tapper and the reality on the ground. And the reality on the ground is that for over 7 months, the Israeli government has had a policy of preventing food from getting into Gaza and other supplies through arbitrary and onerous restrictions on aid passing into Gaza, according to everybody who's involved, including the aid organizations, the U.S. government, the Palestinians, and everything that we see, everything that everybody can see on their phones every day, all day. So there's a huge gap between what he's saying and what your lying eyes are telling you. But and I also think it's just counterproductive in my personal view to say that attacks on Israeli policy are anti-Semitic. The two have nothing to do with each other. Lots of Jews have nothing to do with anti-Israeli policy and are very critical of it, including this Jew right here.
So there's also the question about what happens to Gaza after this war is over. He addressed that. He talked about a potential for IDF occupation and basically ruled it out. Here's what he said.
You're taking off the table an Israeli occupation.
If you mean resettling Gaza, yeah, it was never in the cards, and I said so openly, and some of my constituents are not happy about it, but that's my position. I would do is have a reconstruction of Gaza, if possible, done by the moderate Arab states and the international community.
Do you think, Josh, that that is something that is possible or likely given where we are?
Possible but not likely. I mean, again, I think Netanyahu is playing a political game with this issue because everybody knows that his war cabinet is completely divided over the issue of what happens the day after the fighting ends in Gaza. And the Biden administration for months has been trying to convince Netanyahu to accept some sort of arrangement that involves Palestinian Authority from West Bank coming over and another mixture of gambits that would allow Palestinians to run Gaza. And basically, Netanyahu has his own plan, and his own plan is that the Israeli military stays there as long as he wants and that nobody else can come in, and somehow it all gets fixed by the Arab countries. So, it makes sense for him politically. It doesn't match the reality, but he doesn't really seem to care about that.
And the timeline is really important there. When, as you pointed out, when would Israeli troops leave? He doesn't really say that. But I do, Josh, want to get to your most recent reporting, really fascinating, about what is happening with former President Trump. Trump's former ambassador to Germany, Ric Grenell, he had a private dinner with a group of Arab American donors and activists. Tiffany, Trump's husband, is also involved in this. It's one of many that they are organizing in battleground states. Are they serious here about trying to appeal to Arab voters? And are you actually hearing receptiveness to that among Arab voters who might be disenchanted with President Biden?
Yeah, crazily enough, it's true that the Trump campaign is not only devoting a huge amount of resources and time into courting Arab American and Muslim American voters in key battleground states, that they also are making traction. And I talked to several of the attendees at that dinner in Oakland Hills, Michigan, which is going on right now, actually, as we're on the air right now. And some of them are, willing to hear out Trump's envoy, Ric Grenell, his former ambassador. Some of them are already on board with the Trump train. And their logic is pretty clear. They said, well, Joe Biden didn't do anything for us when our family members are getting killed in Gaza, so we might as well take a chance and roll the dice on a Trump too. And they know that the best way to get in with Trump is to get in early. So you might not think that Trump, who has said so many horrible things about Muslims and Islam over the years, or Ric Grenell would be a natural envoy to the Muslim or Arab American community. But here we are. That's 2024 for you. According to the New York Times, in battleground states, Trump is leading Biden with Muslim and Arab Americans 57-25.
Wow.
And if that number doesn't blow your mind, nothing will.
Yeah, I mean, crazier things have happened, I suppose, but we'll find out. Josh Rogin, thanks for bringing us all of that reporting.